We've just seen how an array of aquatic animals adapt to living in the ever-changing oceans of the world. Thanks, Jones. See you next time on Wild Child.
Credits: host Nell Jones. Executive producers Veronica Fury, Michael Tier, and Michael Burton. Series producer Simone McKinder. Senior associate producer Jessica Magro. For Hearst Media Production Group, President Frank Biancuso. Executive Vice Presidents Brian Kerb and David Doyle. Copyright 2026, Hearst Media Production Group, LLC. Based on the television series Baby Animals, created by Wild Bear Entertainment. Funding for audio description is provided by the U.S. Department of Education. A logo, Hearst Media Production Group.
You're watching
now with the very latest on Lineage and the situation that's happening with the cleanup in Boyle Heights. They say they've hit a milestone in the cleanup. Lingering odors, though, could get worse before there's any relief. We're live at News Chopper 4 with an update. But first, Stephanie.
The heat continues as we finish out the weekend and as we start up a new work week. Highs in the 90s and triple digits. We'll have your first alert forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
It's a matter of, do we open? Can we get to work?
Open and traffic is moving again. How the Sunset Strip is coming back. The Saturday crowds after a water main break kept people away for more than a week.
NBC4 News at 5 starts with breaking news.
And we begin at 5 with the sweltering heat stretching into the weekend and no signs of a cool off for days to come. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Kathy Vara. Jonathan's off tonight. Let's head right outside right now. We're going to show you a look from our Mount Wilson camera over the San Gabriel Valley. Temperatures are nearing triple digits there, and it's even hotter in the Inland Empire. Let's get right to meteorologist Stephanie Olmo tracking your first alert forecast.
Kathy, we're still talking about it. I know we sound like a broken record, but the heat continues as we continue through the weekend and even as we head into next week, unfortunately. I want to go over the temperatures right now. Currently in the upper 90s in spots like Van Nuys, Santa Clarita, you were talking about here, the San Gabriel Valley temperatures currently out there in the lower 90s, 98 in Ontario, 99 in Riverside, and temperatures still remaining in the triple digits in areas like San Bernardino, currently at 104. And with a little bit of that humidity, because we're still dealing with that monsoonal moisture, it feels a little bit hotter in some of these areas. But as we check out the hour by forecast, this is for the city of San Fernando. This evening around 7 o'clock here, if you have any dinner plans, notice the temperatures are still pretty hot with temperatures at 90 degrees. And then we continue through the night and temperatures coming down, eventually back down into the upper 70s. But that's going to be later on tonight around 11 p.m. And we'll keep those temperatures in the 70s even as we head into the overnight hours. So unfortunately, not a whole lot of relief to cool off. High pressure system in place yet again, just nearby over the Four Corners region, and this is what's resulting in this heat that we've been dealing with for quite some time. Heat around cooling off just a little bit as we head into the early part of the work week, but it's still going to be pretty hot. So temperatures for tomorrow, upper 80s for the Basin, Inland Orange County, the valleys, i.e. also the high desert. We're talking about temperatures again climbing into the triple digits. It's going to be another warm one for the mountains with a high temperature tomorrow of 87. So we'll talk more about the heat. Of course, we have the heat alert still in place through Monday. More on that in just a bit. For now, over to you, Kathy.
Thank you. And as that heat continues, be sure to download our free NBC LA app. Track temperatures and heat advisories in your neighborhood. Now to a major update on the cleanup of the Boyle Heights warehouse fire. Today, Lineage said the smell is actually going to get worse before it gets better. Right now, crews are working on removing the wall separating the burned and the unburned sections of the building, which could take up to 3 days, and it could release more odors. Lineage says it's adding 3 more high-powered carbon filters on the Union Pacific side of the building. The good news is Lineage says nearly half of the food waste has now been cleared off the property and sealed in deodorized containers that will be transported off-site. Let's go live to the cleanup right now. Ryan Williams is overhead at News Chopper 4. He has a tour of what the the warehouse looks like right now. Ryan.
Yes, Kathy. Well, we've been following this almost all week. Since Tuesday, we've been up in the air taking a look and seeing the progress of this cleanup. What I can tell you from I see here is that a lot of the heavy machinery has done a great job of cleaning out some of that bigger, a lot of metal scrap materials and moved it over to the right side of your screen. And now, just today, I'm seeing hand crews, these gentlemen and ladies that are down here and cleaning up the stuff off the concrete slabs, trying to remove that so that it's completely cleaned from that end. But as you're mentioning, it's this wall just to the back here where the other side of the building is, and a lot of that smell is going to be coming from. Another thing that we saw was there were some spray canisters that were spraying some deodorizers into the air. But the biggest thing, and the last thing I want to mention to you, is that the smell. We were 1,100 feet up in the air, and we could smell it as soon as we crossed south of the 60 freeway. So the smell is still quite a factor here.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much. Lenny, as they expect demolition and cleanup to, quote, be largely complete in the coming days. Of course, we're still working to learn the exact timeline. We'll bring you updates as soon as we get them right here and on the NBCLA app. And also in our coverage, a new exclusive NBC4 investigates a pet inspection done on the Lineage property reveals deep health concerns for the community. How the mix of waste and heat could be increasing breeding for flies and the risk for a very specific disease. You can watch the full story on our website, NBCLA.com, and the NBCLA app. Turning now to West Hollywood, Sunset Boulevard is back open. It has been just over a week since that disruptive water main break. Today, businesses are celebrating the Saturday crowds. NBC4 will join us live from Sunset and Holloway. Keenan, for once, it's good to see traffic behind you out there.
Did you ever think you'd live to see the day that people would be celebrating seeing bumper-to-bumper traffic on the Sunset Strip? Well, it's here because obviously this street was shut down for more than a week. Obviously, that intersection there, Sunset and Holloway, flooding during that disastrous water main break that Thursday morning. And then, of course, this intersection and part of Sunset turning into a construction site as LADWP crews worked to get this strip of road repaired and back open. That's finally happened. Traffic is moving once again. People and businesses here so relieved to get back to a sense of normalcy here.
I am ecstatic the street's back open. I just got some good food. We're going to Supreme and we're gonna go shopping back on the best street, Sunset.
Looks much better than a few days ago. We were walking by a few days ago. It looks great. Honestly, they did a good job and they moved pretty fast.
Sunset Boulevard here at Holloway reopened to traffic overnight. It comes after LADWP says a 36-inch water line burst here, flooding the street with more than 17 million gallons of water and creating a sinkhole in this road. That water also damaging businesses, tearing up sidewalks and flooding some underground parking garages. LADWP says that pipe that burst is 110 years old and was originally scheduled to be replaced starting in 2031. The department now says they're working to speed up that replacement plan, which could take up to 4 years to complete. Having traffic back open on this street has been a relief for businesses. Book Soup says they had to shut down for several days because of this main break. Today, they're back open and ready for business. In fact, they're one of 13 stops this weekend on the City of LA's first ever indie bookstore crawl.
It's been a wild week here on Sunset with the water main break and the sinkhole, but Book Soup is now open and fully accessible by car. So that's been the silver lining for us. Is the amount of our community, the calls, the emails.
They're just happy to get people back in the door here. Businesses or just people who get to go to those businesses here on the Sunset Strip. Now, as you can see, there's still some LADWP trucks out here. The work is not entirely done with this project. This was a temporary repaving just to get Sunset back open and running. They're going to have to do permanent repaving work, which LADWP tells us will involve some temporary lane closures here once again in the coming days. Now, to account for that, there are going to be some changes to how the City of West Hollywood enforces traffic and parking. The City of West Hollywood today telling us that through next Saturday, not going to be enforcing street sweeping parking hours or residential parking permits on streets in this neighborhood just to help out with folks who might be living here and could be impacted by some of the ongoing roadwork. So something important to know as this community continues to recover from what was a very disruptive but ultimately coming to a close situation here. In West Hollywood, Keenan Willard, NBC4 News.
Big update there. Keenan, thank you so much. New at 5, court filings show the Trump administration has admitted to intentionally canceling research grants in states that didn't go to President Trump in the 2024 election. It's all part of the law by University of California researchers that are challenging grant cancellations. According to the filing, the Trump administration said that nearly 300 research grants from the Department of Energy were canceled solely because they were in blue states. This was first reported by the New York Times. The press secretary for the Energy Department called the report a misrepresentation and said the grant decisions were not political. The White House has not yet commented on the reports. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to meet with President Trump in Washington next week. This comes as the war in the Middle East expands. Both leaders are set to meet on Tuesday. Prime Minister Netanyahu will also attend the funeral for the late Senator Lindsey Graham. The meeting will mark the first face-to-face talks between President Trump and the Israeli Prime Minister since the Middle East conflict began in late February. Coming up next, something a lot of us are doing this weekend, a quick dip to beat the heat. Where the large